pinching the bridge of her nose. You're telling me that the entire Galactic Council, all 27 species of supposedly advanced civilizations, are having an emergency session because someone left the cargo bay door open? The Arxian delegate's crystalline form flickered in what Rodriguez had learned to recognize as extreme discomfort. Its prismatic surfaces caught the light of the council chamber's artificial sun, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the walls. You misunderstand the gravity of the situation, Ambassador. The Arxian's translated voice chimed through the room's speakers. The Void Serpent containment facility on Outpost Station Delta 9 has experienced what your species might term a workplace safety incident. A workplace safety incident, Rodriguez repeated flatly. Because someone didn't follow proper lockout-tagout procedures? The proper term is catastrophic containment breach, resulting in the release of approximately 317 Void Serpents into the primary shipping lanes of the Orion Spur. Another voice cut in. This one belonged to High Commander Zexelk of the Mantid Confederation, their chitinous mandibles clicking in agitation. And before you make light of this situation, Ambassador, I should remind you that Void Serpents are Class 12 psychic predators capable of inducing mass hysteria, feeding on fear, and creating temporal anomalies when they get excited. Yes, I read the briefing packet. Rodriguez interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. What I don't understand is why this requires an emergency session of the full council. Don't we have containment protocols for this sort of thing? The chamber fell silent. 26 alien species, representing the most advanced civilizations in known space, collectively managed to look sheepish. Quite a feat considering some of them were clouds of sentient gas. The Arxian's crystalline form dimmed slightly. We do have protocols. And? They all require getting close enough to the Void Serpents to implement them. Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. Are you telling me that none of you want to go catch the space snakes? Ambassador, High Commander Zex LK began carefully. You must understand that Void Serpents are particularly drawn to species with highly organized neural structures. The more advanced the civilization, the more attractive we are as prey. It would be suicide for any of our species to attempt containment. So what's the plan then? Let them terrorize the shipping lanes until they get bored? The Arxian's crystal matrix pulsed in what might have been embarrassment. Actually, we were hoping humanity might be willing to assist. Rodriguez stared at the assembled alien delegates for a long moment. Then she started laughing. It wasn't a nice laugh. Let me make sure I'm following this correctly, she said once she'd caught her breath. You, the combined might of 26 spacefaring civilizations, with technology so advanced you barely consider us more than clever monkeys, want humans to clean up your mess because we're too stupid to be afraid? That is a gross oversimplification, protested the Mantid High Commander. We simply recognize that humanity's unique qualities make you uniquely suited to this task. Our unique qualities being what? Our stubborn refusal to die when things try to eat us? Your species does have an unprecedented survival rate against Class 12 entities, the Arxian noted. And your neural patterns are, well, primitive, Rodriguez suggested dryly. Challenging for psychic predators to properly grasp, the Arxian finished diplomatically. Something about your tendency toward illogical thought processes and emotional decision-making creates a kind of natural defense against their hunting methods. Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. So because we're emotional and don't make sense, the space snakes can't eat our brains properly, and this makes us qualified to round them up? That, and your species' remarkable tendency to succeed at tasks that should be physically impossible through sheer determination and what you call spite, added a Volus representative, their environmental suit hissing slightly as they spoke. You know what? Rodriguez said, standing up. Fine, I'll handle it. But we're doing this the human way. The chamber erupted in alarmed murmuring. The human way? The Arxian asked cautiously. Yep. Rodriguez pulled out her comm unit and started typing. I'm calling in some specialists. What sort of specialists? Ever heard of the Australian outback? The confusion in the room was palpable. First things first, Rodriguez continued, ignoring their concern. I'm going to need about 30 cases of beer, some really good barbecue, and access to your station's internal communication system. Oh, and whatever the alien equivalent of a GoPro is. Lots of them. I don't understand, the Mantid High Commander said. How will these items assist in containing Class 12 psychic predators? Rodriguez grinned. It was not a reassuring expression. Trust me, this is going to be either the most impressive or the most entertaining thing you've ever seen. Probably both. 48 hours later, The Galactic Council watched in horror and fascination as a small fleet of modified human shuttles approached Outpost Station Delta 9. Their horror increased exponentially when they realized the humans had painted racing stripes and what appeared to be shark teeth on the sides of their vessels. "Is that music?" the Arxian asked, their crystalline form vibrating in confusion as a heavy bass line began pumping through the station's communication channels. "AC/DC, Rodriguez confirmed, watching the feed with obvious amusement. The cleanup crew insisted on proper mood music. The council observers watched as the shuttle bay doors opened, revealing a group of humans in what appeared to be heavily modified environmental suits. Several of them were carrying what looked suspiciously like oversized butterfly nets made of energy fields. "Those can't possibly work," High Commander Zex muttered. "Probably not," Rodriguez agreed cheerfully. "But Tony there, the one with the red stripes on his suit, bet Jake. The one with the blue stripes. 50 credits he could catch more void serpents with the net than Jake could with the sonic lure. They've got a whole pool going. They're gambling on their success rates while attempting to contain Class 12 psychic predators? Oh yeah. The pot's up to about 2,000 credits now, plus bragging rights, which is the real prize." The feed showed the humans splitting into teams, each heading off in different directions through the station's corridors. "They appeared to be whistling? Why are they making those sounds?" a Volus representative asked. "They're trying to attract the void serpent's attention," Rodriguez explained. "Apparently someone looked up their hunting patterns and decided they were basically just spooky space cobras. The whistling is something snake handlers do back on Earth." That's not how void serpents work at all," the Arxian protested. "They're sophisticated psychic predators that—" The Arxian was interrupted by a whoop of triumph coming through the feed, followed by, "Got one. That's 50 credits you owe me, Jake." "Bullshit. That one was clearly coming from me first." "Not my fault you're too slow, mate." The council watched in stunned silence as the humans proceeded to turn what should have been a carefully coordinated containment operation into what appeared to be a combination of a competition show and a pub crawl. They were keeping score. They had invented a point system based on the size of the void serpents and the difficulty of the catch. "Did that human just—" The mantid High Commander trailed off, mandibles twitching in disbelief. "Yep," Rodriguez confirmed. "He just rode one like a rodeo bull. That's worth double points according to their rules." But the psychic feedback alone should have driven him insane." Rodriguez shrugged. "Probably would have, if he wasn't singing Sweet Home Alabama at the top of his lungs the whole time. Turns out it's really hard for psychic predators to get a grip on your mind when you're belting out Lynyrd Skynyrd and thinking about beer." The operation continued for several hours, punctuated by frequent shouting, betting, and the occasional burst of classic rock music. Somehow, against all logic and reasonable expectations, the void serpents were being captured one by one. The humans had even started naming them. "All right, that's Bruce in the bag," one of the handlers announced over the comm. "He's a feisty one. Tried to create a temporal anomaly, but I gave him a burger and now he's cool." "You fed it?" the Arxian asked faintly. "Sure," Rodriguez said. "Turns out they're way less cranky when they're not hungry. Who knew?" By the time the last void serpent was safely contained, in what appeared to be a modified beer cooler, much to the council's distress, the humans had not only completed their mission, but had also compiled enough footage for what they were calling the greatest live-stream event in human history. "Final count," Rodriguez announced to the council, reading from her comm unit. 317 void serpents captured, 0 casualties, minimal property damage. Well, except for that one vending machine. But Tony swears that wasn't his fault, and we've got about 6 hours of premium entertainment footage. Oh, and apparently 3 of the handlers want to know if they can keep some of the smaller ones as pets. They say they're actually kind of cute once you get to know them." The council chamber was silent for a long moment. "This is not how Class 12 entity containment is supposed to work," the mantid High Commander finally said. "Maybe not," Rodriguez agreed. "But it did work. And now we know that void serpents like hamburgers and classic rock. I'd call that a win for science." "A win for science," the Arxian repeated weakly. "Oh, and one more thing," Rodriguez added, her expression turning serious. "The cleanup crew has requested permanent contracts as the Council's official Class 12 entity containment team. They say, and I quote, 'This beats the hell out of catching regular snakes, and the pay is better.'" The council representatives looked at each other in what might have been fear, might have been resignation, or might have been the dawning realization that they had just witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. I suppose, the Arxian said finally, that given the success of this operation, we should consider their offer. Probably a good idea, Rodriguez agreed, especially since they've already started designing t-shirts and planning a reality show. A what? Don't worry about it, Rodriguez said, patting the Arxian's crystalline surface sympathetically. Just be glad they didn't bring the crocodile handler this time. He's on vacation in Florida. The council shuddered collectively at the implication that there were humans who handled even more dangerous creatures for fun. And that's how humanity became the galaxy's go-to species for dealing with things that go bump in the night. Not because we were the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but because we were just stupid enough to try, just stubborn enough to succeed, and just crazy enough to turn it into entertainment. The merchandise sales alone paid for the next 3 years of human expansion into space. The reality show won 17 awards, and somewhere in the depths of space, 317 void serpents developed a peculiar taste for hamburgers and AC/DC. The galaxy would never be quite the same. Look, Ambassador Rodriguez said, her voice carrying that special tone of exasperation she'd perfected since humanity became the galaxy's designated problem solvers. I understand you're concerned about the ratings, but we can't just release dangerous entities into space for entertainment. But think about the viewers, protested Kyle Matthews, executive producer of Snakes on a Space Station, the hit reality show that had spawned from the Void Serpent incident. Our numbers are starting to plateau. We need something bigger, something more exciting. The answer is still no. What if we just... The argument was interrupted by the urgent chiming of Rodriguez's official council communication device. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the familiar crystalline form of the Arxian delegate. Ambassador. The Arxian's translated voice carried an unmistakable note of panic. We have a situation. Rodriguez closed her eyes and counted to 10. What kind of situation? Remember how your containment team insisted on keeping some of the smaller void serpents as pets? Yes. And remember how they discovered that void serpents have a particular fondness for human music and food? I'm not going to like where this is going, am I? The Arxian's crystal matrix flickered in what Rodriguez had learned to recognize as extreme embarrassment. It seems that prolonged exposure to human culture has had some unexpected effects on their development. Define unexpected effects. The void serpents have learned to sing. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, Rodriguez said carefully. But did you just tell me that the psychic space snakes have learned to sing? Yes. And they appear to have developed a particular fondness for something called karaoke. Kyle's eyes lit up with the unmistakable gleam of a reality TV producer who'd just struck gold. Rodriguez pointed at him without looking. No. Whatever you're thinking, no. But the answer is still no. The Arxian continued. That's not actually the primary concern. The issue is that they've started teaching other void serpents. The ones we released back into their natural habitat? They've formed what your species might call a band. Rodriguez dropped her face into her hands. A band? Yes, they're currently holding what appears to be a concert in the Carina Nebula. It's attracting rather a lot of attention. What kind of attention? Well, the good news is that they're no longer hunting other species. The bad news is that they've developed a following. Several Class 8 and Class 9 entities have been observed, attending their performances. Kyle was practically vibrating with excitement. This is amazing! We could call it Galaxy's Got Talent Extreme Edition! The Council, the Arxian continued, diplomatically ignoring Kyle's outburst, would appreciate if humanity could handle this situation, preferably before the Void Serpents start taking requests. Rodriguez sighed deeply. Fine, I'll make some calls. But first, I need to know exactly what they're singing. According to our analysis, it appears to be a mixture of what you call classic rock and something termed death metal, though there have been concerning reports of them attempting to incorporate something called disco. Right, Rodriguez said, already pulling out her personal comm unit. I'm going to need to call in some special consultants for this one, and probably a few music producers. Music producers? The Arxian asked cautiously. If we can't stop them from performing, we might as well make sure they're doing it properly. Besides, do you really want a bunch of psychic predators thinking disco is the height of human musical achievement? I suppose not. Exactly. Give me 48 hours. I'll have a team assembled. The resulting operation went down in galactic history as either the most brilliant or the most ridiculous solution to an interstellar crisis, depending on who you asked. The humans naturally insisted it was both. The containment team, now expanded to include several professional musicians, a sound engineer, and somewhat inexplicably, a jazz fusion specialist, approached the situation with their usual combination of reckless enthusiasm and improbable expertise. "All right," announced Mac Davidson, former snake handler turned impromptu band manager. "First things first, their rhythm section needs work. You can't build a solid sound on temporal anomalies alone." "Their harmonies are actually pretty good, though," noted Jazz Thompson, the sound engineer. "Something about their psychic abilities lets them hit frequencies that shouldn't technically be possible." "Yeah, but their stage presence needs work," added Tony from the original containment team. "They're still trying to induce fear during their guitar solos. We need to channel that energy into something more productive." The solution, when it finally came together, was pure human ingenuity at its finest. Instead of trying to stop the Void Serpents from performing, the team decided to help them improve. They set up what they called an interstellar music workshop, complete with proper equipment, training, and, most importantly, a thorough education in musical history and theory. "You can't appreciate rock properly if you don't understand its roots," Mac insisted to a group of attentive Void Serpents. "Now let's talk about the blues." The results were unexpected. Within 3 months, the Void Serpents had not only improved their musical abilities, but had developed their own unique genre, which humans dubbed psychic progressive metal. Their first official album, Temporal Frequencies in E minor, became an overnight sensation across 17 star systems. The Class 8 and Class 9 entities that had been attending their concerts became their biggest fans, forming what might have been the galaxy's first interstellar fan club. Several of them took up instruments themselves, leading to what music critics would later call the Great Cosmic Orchestra movement. "You know," Rodriguez said to the Arxian delegate during a council session reviewing the situation, "this might actually be working out better than anyone expected." "They're still technically dangerous predators," the Arxian pointed out. "True, but they're channeling it productively now. When was the last time you heard of a Void Serpent attacking a ship?" "Not since they started their galactic tour," the Arxian admitted, though the merchandise sales are becoming somewhat concerning. "Concerning how?" "Several highly advanced civilizations have taken to wearing what I believe you call band T-shirts during official functions. The Mantid High Commander was seen wearing one during last week's peace negotiations." Rodriguez tried, and failed, to suppress a grin. "Well, you have to admit it's better than them eating people." "Perhaps," the Arxian conceded, "though I'm still not entirely comfortable with the fact that they've scheduled a concert at the council chamber next month." "Hey, at least they asked permission this time, and they've promised to keep the temporal anomalies to a minimum during their drum solos." The Arxian's crystal matrix pulsed in what might have been resignation. "I suppose this is what we should have expected when we asked humans to handle the situation." "Look on the bright side," Rodriguez said cheerfully. "The reality show's ratings are through the roof, the Void Serpents are happy, and we've accidentally created the galaxy's first interspecies cultural exchange program. I'd call that a win." "A win," the Arxian repeated faintly. "Is that what we're calling it? Well, what would you call it?" Before the Arxian could respond, Rodriguez's comm unit chimed. She checked the message and started laughing. "What is it?" "The Void Serpents just announced their next album title, Thanks for the Hamburgers, Earth." And somewhere in the Carina Nebula, a group of former psychic predators practiced their power chords, perfected their harmonies, and planned their next galactic tour, complete with a light show that bent both space and time, but in a strictly regulated and highly entertaining manner. The merchandise sales broke all previous records. The reality show won another 20 awards. And humanity's reputation as the species you called when things got weird was cemented even further. The galaxy might never be normal again, but at least it had a killer soundtrack. The meeting room aboard Galactic Council Station Prime was decorated with an eclectic mix of items that perfectly summarized humanity's impact on interstellar relations. A platinum record from the Void Serpent's latest album, a collection of snakes on a space station, commemorative plates, and a framed shirt reading, "I survived the Psychic Progressive Metal Festival, temporally speaking." Ambassador Rodriguez sat across from 3 very nervous-looking council representatives, wondering what crisis would require an emergency meeting at 3 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, she said, clutching her fourth cup of coffee. You're telling me that our solution to the Void Serpent situation has inspired others? The Arxean's crystalline form flickered in what she now recognized as their equivalent of a nervous twitch. That would be an understatement. High Commander ZXLK's mandibles clicked rapidly. The situation has grown beyond our worst projections. Ever since your species demonstrated that Class 12 entities could be domesticated. Domesticated is a strong word, Rodriguez interrupted. We prefer convinced to pursue alternative career paths. Regardless of terminology, the Volus representative wheezed through their environmental suit. Your success has led to a concerning trend. Various species across the galaxy are now attempting to, how do you say it, pull a human when encountering dangerous entities. Rodriguez set down her coffee cup. Define pulling a human. The Arxean projected a series of images into the air. Last week, a group of Centaurian merchants attempted to start a dating service for quantum leviathans. The same quantum leviathans that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously? Yes, they thought, and I quote, "If humans can teach space snakes to sing, surely we can help lonely multi-dimensional beings find love." That's... Rodriguez paused. Actually, that's kind of sweet. What's the problem? The problem, High Commander ZXLK chittered, is that quantum leviathans reproduce by splitting reality. We now have 3 parallel timelines where different versions of the same leviathan are dating itself. Ah, that's not all, the Volus added. A collective of Andromedian entrepreneurs has started a theme park using rehabilitated voidwalkers as ride operators. The shadow beings that feed on existential dread? Yes, they've apparently been trained to channel that dread into, and again I quote, the ultimate thrill ride experience. Rodriguez pinched the bridge of her nose. Please tell me that's the worst of it. The Arxean's crystal matrix dimmed. A group of Pleiadian performance artists has begun offering meditation retreats inside the consciousness of domesticated elder horrors. There was a long pause. You know, Rodriguez said finally, I feel like we should have seen this coming. This is serious, High Commander ZXLK protested. The entire galaxy is descending into chaos because everyone is trying to copy your species' ridiculous methods. Our ridiculous methods that work, Rodriguez pointed out. That's not the point. We need you to fix this. Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, a familiar glint in her eye that made all 3 council representatives instantly regret their choice of words. Fix it how, exactly? We need humanity to... The Arxean struggled for words. To handle it? Rodriguez suggested innocently. Yes! Fine. Rodriguez stood up, straightening her jacket. I'll handle it, but we're doing this the human way. The council representatives exchanged worried looks. What's the human way? If you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and then regulate the hell out of it. 72 hours later, the Galactic Council chamber was packed as Rodriguez unveiled humanity's solution to the crisis. The presentation screen behind her displayed a logo that combined elements of a corporate brand, a government seal, and what appeared to be a tourism advertisement. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted consciousness constructs, Rodriguez announced, I present to you the Bureau of Unconventional Entity Relations and Tourism, or BUERT for short. A tourism bureau? Someone in the audience asked incredulously. Not just a tourism bureau, Rodriguez corrected. Think of it as a combination regulatory agency, training center, and quality control department for all non-traditional entity interactions. She clicked to the next slide, which showed a complex organizational chart. We've already recruited the best experts in various fields, xenobiologists, physicists, entertainment producers, marketing specialists, and of course, our original containment teams. Each division will be responsible for evaluating and approving any proposals for non-traditional entity engagement. And you think this will solve the problem? The Arxean asked skeptically. Absolutely. Look, the issue isn't that people are trying to interact with these entities in new ways. It's that they're doing it without proper guidance or safety measures. BUERT will provide both. She gestured to a holographic display showing various successful human interventions, from the Void Serpent concert tour to more recent achievements. We've already drafted comprehensive guidelines for everything from entity entertainment ventures to cross-dimensional dating services. Want to start a theme park with cosmic horrors? Great. But you'll need to pass our safety inspection and get your elder things properly certified in customer service first. Customer service certification for elder things? High Commander ZXLK's mandibles twitched in disbelief. You'd be surprised how well they take to it, Rodriguez said. Turns out, many cosmic horrors really appreciate having a structured workflow and clear performance metrics. The presentation continued, outlining various programs and initiatives. The Responsible Entity Relations Certification Program, Guidelines for Ethical Interdimensional Tourism, the Entity Cultural Exchange Program, a standardized rating system for paranormal attractions, insurance policies specifically covering temporal paradoxes and reality shifts. And the best part, Rodriguez concluded, is that we can fund the entire operation through licensing fees and merchandise sales. The gift shop revenue alone from the Quantum Leviathan dating service is projected to cover our first year's budget. The council chamber erupted in a mixture of protests, questions, and what might have been hysterical laughter from some of the more reality-flexible species. "This is preposterous," someone shouted. "Maybe," Rodriguez agreed cheerfully. "But ask yourselves this. Would you rather have people attempting these things without oversight, or with the full support and guidance of the species that somehow taught cosmic horrors to appreciate good customer reviews?" There was a long moment of silence as the council processed this logic. "I move to approve the formation of BUERT," the Arxians said finally, their crystal matrix pulsing with what might have been resignation, amusement, or both. "Seconded," added High Commander Zexilk, who had apparently decided that if reality was going to get weird, it might as well be properly regulated. The motion passed with an overwhelming majority, though several species abstained on the grounds that they were laughing too hard to vote properly. 6 months later, Rodriguez stood in her office aboard the newly constructed BUERT headquarters, reviewing the latest reports. The Quantum Leviathan dating service had successfully matched 12 couples, with only 2 minor reality splits. The Voidwalker theme park had received a 5-star safety rating and was featured in Galactic Tourism Monthly. The Elder Horror meditation retreats were booked solid for the next 3 cycles, with a waiting list for their Journey to the Center of Cosmic Consciousness package. The Void Serpents had opened a music school that offered classes in both traditional instruments and psychic harmonics. "You know," she said to the Arxian delegate who had come to inspect the facility, "I think this might be our most successful solution yet." "The galaxy will never be the same," the Arxian noted. "Probably not," Rodriguez agreed, "but at least now we have proper paperwork for it." And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a Quantum Leviathan filled out its dating profile, a Void Walker practiced its safety briefing spiel, and an Elder Horror led a guided meditation session, all under the watchful eye of humanity's newest and strangest bureaucracy. The merchandise sales were, of course, astronomical. The reality show spawned 3 spin-offs, and humanity's reputation as the species that could turn any cosmic horror into a tourist attraction was sealed forever. The galaxy might have gone mad, but at least it had filed the proper permits first. The end.